Joroge, Joroge. We are good to go. There is one more. Now, Dr. Salome Muigai, take over.
Thank you very much, Madam MC. You've been doing a great job. I would like to invite our participants to come further in front so that we understand each other and we see each other. Please could each other and we see each other. Please could you move further up? Do you move further up near us? Want us to move back near us? Want us to move back, which is going to take me another 10 minutes to do that. So please move nearer us because we are not that many and this is a big hall. Okay. I used to teach in an approved school. So I can see I might need some of the skills that I got from there. This afternoon, we are happy to welcome our speakers. We are here to look at
Hello, Mary, can you hear me?
Yes, very, very well.
Thank you. I can hear you, but I cannot hear anyone else in the room.
Oh, you cannot see the participants. Okay.
I can see the participants, but I don't hear any sound coming from the room. But I can hear you.
Okay. The other members. Can you hear them?
No, I don't hear the people in the room.
I think if you can hear me, we can hear you very well in the room. Yeah, so I think we just go ahead because we've also lost a bit of time. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, it's indeed a pleasure to have you in this room. Maria Lucia, we have over, I think, 30 participants in our room. And our participants are drawn from, it's actually an intergenerational engagement. So we have people who are in academia, we have young people, students, teachers, from all walks of life. And we will be looking at values and life skills in this breakout session. And our background, like you may have seen in our program, we draw a bit further. I know our program comes from the values-based education, but I want to draw this from our constitution, where we have Article 10 that talks about principles and values of governance that we all need to adhere to, including the public, people in the public service, and all citizens. Then Article 132 talks about or it provides for the president to report on how the country is doing in terms of values and life skills. And I'm sure maybe some of you may have seen that report being provided. Coming back to our lives, we have also seen a number of challenges in our country, in our communities that are about probably us not adhering very well to values. And I want to recall what Dr. Sheila said in the morning, that education is not, we cannot talk about equitable quality education if it is not values-based. I remember her saying that very, very well. And therefore, based on that, this engagement is critical for us to look at, though we have many opportunities for promoting life skills, where are we, what do we need to do differently, are there good practices that are there for us to look up to or to learn from. And I'm happy to have the panelists here with me, and I'll give them an opportunity to introduce themselves so that we can know them. So you just say your name and where you come from at the beginning. We can start with you, Maria Lucia.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mary. And it is a pleasure for me to be with you today, even if it's online. And I wish I would be there to be able to get to know you and network. So let me start by sharing that, Arigato International, which is the organization I represent, has been working on the area of ethics education for children during the last 20 years. And during the last couple of years, we have engaged with several ministries of education in a structured program that is called the Ethics Education Fellowship Program. And the government of Kenya, through the Ministry of Education, has been a part of.
Okay.
Sorry for that, Mary. Thank you. Yes. No, just to say, Maria Lucia Uribe, I'm the Executive Director of Arigato International Geneva. I'm very pleased to be here. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Then I'll go to Dora.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dora Kitala. I'm in the Ministry of Education, State Department for Basic Education, Partnerships, and East African Community Affairs. In the directorate, among many other things that I do, the main reason why I'm here is because I coordinate a program we are running
in this panel, but unfortunately they could not be able to make it, so we'll just proceed. My name is Mary Kangede. I work for the Kenya National Commission for UNESCO as the director. Okay, so we will now go, our panel will basically be giving the opportunities to our panelists to share with us, because they are sharing on various areas, assessment of life skills and values. Some of them will be sharing up to each one of them. I'll give them an opportunity, and then from there, we will open up. So,
and building inclusive and peaceful societies. And the program aims to strengthen already the excellent work that countries are doing in promoting health, developing a sustainable implementation of ethics education, actions of contributing to issues of social cohesion, interfaith and intercultural learning, and empowerment of young people. And the process of this fellowship also aims to share good practices between different countries and serve as a community of practice to leverage on resources, good practices, and of course, learning from one another. The reason why this fellowship has been set up, and I think it's very clear, and I think you have been discussing in this conference, that values contribute to. And one is to create this awareness of the self-awareness and other awareness in the learners and attitudes in themselves and others, recognizing the interdependence between all human beings, but also addressing ethical dilemmas and how those impact themselves, others, nature, and the world. Affirming, of course, human dignity, addressing human rights, addressing injustices, encouraging children and young people to think critically and to become aware of the issues around them and how to use nonviolent alternatives to transform conflicts, engaging in dialogue as a critical tool to enhance empathy in children, build positive relationship with others, and of course to enhance respectful communication that can lead to concrete action, which is the competency area that is the last one that we look at. It's what happens when the children go to the class, how they promote and engage with others in positive ways, and how they can be an agent of change in their community. So I'm going to go just quickly and aware of the time. And we are working with several ministries of education and, as I mentioned, the national commissions. And the model of this fellowship is that we work directly with the Ministry of Education, and they select the fellows. Those fellows train teachers in the country, and the teachers implement in their schools. The process is owned by the Ministries of Education. They decide how this is integrated to respond to their policies, to their curriculum, to their national. That we have been working with the Kenyan Institute for Curriculum Development as well. And we organize several meetings to create a global community of practice. We believe that the work that these countries are doing needs to be championed. And for that, we create the opportunity for them to connect with one another, but also to become a reference and a model for other countries on how to integrate ethics education. And we also connect the learners across the different countries for them to challenge their prejudices and stereotypes, but also to share their experiences. In the first phase, we have several results. It has been successful in the sense of the teachers really adapting a new pedagogy that is transformative to bring dialogue into the classroom and be able to speak about issues that at times are difficult to speak about, conflicts, issues that are fueled by maybe religious differences, intercultural differences. And we've seen the learners, 79% of the learners feeling that they have increased their competences, particularly on interreligious and intercultural awareness, as well as social emotional regulation. Children saying that they have new friends with people of different cultures and religions, and reporting that they're able to engage in dialogue, listen more empathically with others. And some of them already reporting that they have started projects in their community to address issues that affect them. There are many others, but I will leave it here so that my colleague Dora can speak more about the case in Kenya and the results that we have been seeing there. And of course, I'm available for any particular questions. Over to you.
Thank you so much for giving us the broader model. And now I'll go to Dora so that you can show us exactly how it worked out in Kenya, which is one of the target countries. Over to you. 5 minutes.
Okay, so Maria Lucia has already said a lot, but she's shared a bit about our journey, how we were trained as fellows, and we were expected as fellows to come and implement the program here. What maybe she didn't mention in her introduction is that it wasn't just Ministry of Education. We were taking the lead, but we worked hand in hand with someone from KICD. We worked hand in hand with someone from university. And then, of course, we had NATCOM and UNESCO supporting us in that process. So when we came back, we immediately went into conducting the national training of teachers. So teachers were selected. There was a criteria. I'll not have to go through that. But we got teachers from 3 primary schools and 3 secondary schools in Kikuyu and Nairobi. Faith visits is what I believe would refer to as informal. We go out to visit the temples and the mosques. Maria has also talked about country class online intercultural exchanges. They didn't just take place online, but the intercultural school functions also happen to deepen our understanding of our different cultures. And so that's how we ran the program. You can see in some cases we went on after phase 1 and 2 where we trained about 16 teachers, 6 castles. We had, TTC, civil society, national commissions. Then the learners and their teachers were told now go and see what kind of initiatives we can come up with. So our learners formed what we call ethics clubs.
The issue of pedagogy and capacitating teachers so that they can be able to handle ethics education in learning institutions. And I think something that we continuously learn that they have brought out is the specific skills and the values that we need to focus on so that we know exactly where we are going. Because I think that has been an issue. We are not very clear exactly what it is that we are working towards. And I like what the specific outcomes that Maria Lucia brought out, while Dora has really tried to tell us the steps that were taken in Kenya. I think the other one that I want to highlight is the learner agency. I think Dora has brought it out clearly in terms of we need not just make the learners or give the information and the skills to the learner, but we need to give them opportunities to try out. Those opportunities must be availed so that learners can begin to feel that they are agents of transformation in their societies. So sometimes it happens immediately. Dora has also talked about projects. So now we go to the other side, which now becomes very concrete, where we are looking at impact. How do we assess impact? How do we know that we are there? This has been the elephant in the house. And most of the times, these areas, the life skills and values have not been very well supported because the results are not very visible. And even when we brought in life skills education, you know that it was not taught in many schools because it was not being examined. There was no way we could hold teachers accountable. So I want to hear from Sam what it is that you have come out with as you are looking into assessment of life skills and values. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Mary. I think I was asked to prepare to talk about, of course, what we are also doing with parents. But basically, I think the whole idea begins from the common understanding that we have, and it's enshrined in a lot of our frameworks, a lot of our policies, which recognize the centrality of the role of a parent if children are to acquire values and life skills, and even the other core competencies that have been prioritized in the curriculum. And for us, from where we sit, there are four main things that the parent is supposed to do. And one is basically the general idea that children learn better when their parents are engaged with their learning and their progress in school. The second one is about the provision of basic needs and materials, which again helps to then ground children to be able to acquire education. And the third one is about being the role model or helping children to live these values. Because it's also very easy. When I went to school, I did a subject called social education and ethics. And there is always a question we're always asked. If Juma has picked 6,000 shillings in the compound, what should Juma do? And I can assure you we all used to pass that question because we always used to say Juma should take that money to the teacher on duty or something, etc., etc. But one day when a student actually picked some money in the compound and took to the teacher, in the evening we kept asking him, wewe shida yako inakuanga ni nini? Kuna kitu mbaya na akili yako wewe, how do you pick 4,000 shillings in a boys boarding school and take it to the teacher? So the idea that parents have to support, have to live these values for the children to emulate is very critical. And then the fourth role of the parent is the whole idea around creating an enabling environment. And I think both Dora and the speaker online have spoken very elaborately about this. So the idea that there needs to be some predisposition that a child needs to have to be able to acquire and live these values. And a lot of it has got to do with the environment that the parents create. So Zizi Afrique Foundation, in 2020, we joined hands with a number of organizations across East Africa, of course, both government and non-governmental organizations. And one of the questions we asked ourselves is whether actually these values and life skills can be taught. And there was a very huge debate that particular time. There are people who are of the view that values are just caught, they are not taught. And so what we did is we realized that a lot of the measurement tools that existed at that particular time were mainly tools that had been picked from other setups, other contexts, most of the time the global north. And we realized that they were not serving the purpose for us in our context. And so we set out in an ambitious project to come up with the tools to measure these, and it was a long process. We, of course, leveraged experts from across the world, and and came up with a number of people who could develop materials. We started developing the materials. We even went to do what we call now contextualization, because, for example, one of the values that we developed tools for was respect. And the value of respect can be applied very differently across East Africa depending on which community you come from. And just a simple example was like, if you go to my community where I come from, greeting elders is a sign of respect if you're a young person. Shaking their hands is a sign of respect. But if you go to Maasai land, actually, a child, a young person doesn't greet the older person, so it would be seen like disrespect. And so we went through this process of contextualization and developed tools, which we used to test around 45,000 adolescents across East Africa. And that data is available, and we have some of these tools. All of these tools are now open sourced. You can be able to pick them, so I will not dwell so much on them. But maybe just quickly, maybe to just come into now what we are trying to do. So initially, when we set out to develop these tools, we had set them for adolescents. So basically looking at around 13 to 17 years. But we are now in the process of adapting them to a much more younger generation, because what we've also learned is that, especially when it comes to values, people need to start acquiring and practicing these values at a much more younger age. And so we are doing the tools to that level. And of course, how are we doing this? First of all, I think the most critical thing is that a lot of the times there hasn't been a lot of connection between the various actors that are working in this. And that is why we are working very closely with the government and other partners, the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development, the ministry. We just have finished a process of developing some of the materials that will be used by the school leaders, like Dora mentioned. And of course, also harmonizing the different parental engagement frameworks into tools, because we believe very strongly what people need are not necessarily frameworks and policies. I think we've got a lot of policies and a lot of frameworks. I think from where we sit, we believe very strongly that what is needed is now how do you break down, how do you simplify these frameworks into tools that people can use practically? What are the 4 things that you can tell a parent to do to support their children to acquire some of these skills? I don't think what they need is a framework. Of course, these manuals are supposed also to help us to be able to leverage the existing structures. And we have got very robust structures, the BOMs, the parent-teacher associations, National Parents Association, and basically looking at how can these parents be given practical information on what they can be able to do to nurture these skills, rather than us getting lost into the policies and the various frameworks. The other thing that we're also doing is working with the Directorate of National Cohesion and Integration, and basically we are coming up with a national campaign that will support some of these values. You talked about the fact that the presidency is supposed to be reporting every year on how we are doing. We believe there is a conversation to be had with Kenyans, and there is a sense in which we can improve the way we are able to collect that data that helps us report on this. But we believe also for us to have these values, it will go beyond just creating awareness on the values, but really looking at what is inside and how we consciously look at these values as a nation, because then if we are not keen, then we end up in the same place where we all know the values and we all know how we are supposed to live with each other, but we all also know how to go around them and break them. And so these tools, I think, they provide a starting point. We have got tools for 3 values, for 3 life skills, or what we call core competencies. We have collaboration, self-awareness, and problem solving. And we have tools for respect. And in the coming days, we are hoping to work on creating many more. Now, the idea of testing, again, I want to put a disclaimer, because one of the questions that people keep asking themselves, if the only sole purpose of us working on imparting these values is because they'll be measured, what then does that mean to a society? Does it now not box me in the same thing where I can exercise honesty and integrity when you people are looking at me, but when I'm alone, I don't do them? So the idea is going deep beyond just awareness to creating that consciousness that as a nation we are better off if we are going to be guided by values in our education and in our lives. I think I would just basically finish by saying that it's very important also the connection. I think for these things to be holistic and even assessed, the connection between the school and the community is very critical. And a lot of the times we've tended to give solutions for the school environment, and leave the home environment. And I think there is now a growing recognition that if we don't connect these two parts, it becomes a problem. But I think generally, as part of measurement and assessment, we need to have a way as a nation that we can be able to appraise ourselves, even adults, so that we are able to see to what extent we are holding on and practicing these values. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Simon. Let's give him a round of appreciation. Yes, I am told that we need to be leaving by 3:45. Yes, so we have like 15 minutes where we can ask questions. So I will open up the floor for clarification, comment, maybe a question.
Thank you. I want to acknowledge the fact that my colleague was just spoken. I think he's from Zizi Africa. The organization that is mentioning that they are collaborating with is my Directorate of National Cohesion and Values, and I'm happy that is really bringing to the fore what we do. Because as a State Department, we are charged with ensuring that we collate the reports on what the agencies of the government do to promote national values as well as national cohesion. So far so good. We were in the process of coming up with the Kenya National Value Standards, which we are at an advanced stage. Issues of measurements or identifying to what extent national values have been promoted. We worked with KIPRA, which are one step. So we continue still working with entities such that, for instance, now we are with Jaslika here. It's one aspect of also still synergizing. Minister of Education, where my colleague also comes from. Minister of Education, where my colleague also comes from. Initially, we used to work with Catherine from that same department. And weak state or public actors. We're also focusing on private actors. The previous training that we had for only state training institutions last year in Machakos in April, we had over 200 TVETs in Machakos. So our focus was that as we disseminate knowledge as well as skills to trainers in TVETs, they would ultimately cascade this to trainees that they have in those training institutions. So we continue working with other state agencies as well as other private entities so as to take forward the agenda of national values and personal governance. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's hear from Anna. Anna Obura.
Thank you very much. Thank you to the two presenters. This is a huge task, of course, you're taking on, and we're most appreciative of the work in this area, which has been going on, of course, for a few decades with more or less success, let's admit it. I was wondering, in the case of Zidora, the fact that you're working in schools mainly at this point, I didn't see the playground mentioned, and maybe it's part of your work, maybe it's included, and maybe it just wasn't mentioned today. But one of the best ways of trying to find out what children are doing and how they are behaving is to look at the playground and to assess, let's say, certain treatment of a program after 3 months or 4 years in the playground, but also in the behavior in the classroom, which is, as it were, out of lessons. As soon as the lesson stops, what happens in the classroom? That's also extremely interesting to observe. The other point I was wondering about, this is really a question. To be honest, I'm a little bit tired of tree planting, etc. In the sense of, responding to community needs. If I look at communities, I'm thinking, who are the people who need the most help? Is it the overworked mothers? Is it the other overworked people in the community? Is it the elderly? Should children not be helped to identify who needs help, be they individuals or groups, and to get involved with regularly assisting them. It can start within the home. Maybe the mother just cannot look after the smaller children, the weekends, etc. How are the older children who are now in school assisted to better look after their younger siblings? It's a question of quality time, not just keeping them out of danger. I think that assisting the community and getting involved with the community, it has to be useful work. And so I don't know how many communities appreciate tree planting, for example. And I also think that cleanups shouldn't actually be the job of children. I think the adults who make the mess, you have to look at the wider picture. I would like to ask Samuel, with also this very important work on inducing new behaviors or better behaviors, and then assessing them. Assessment being the bugbear that we've had for so many decades. How efficient are we at measuring improvement in behavior? Because it's behavior we're looking at. Attitudes are all very well, but if it doesn't translate into improved behavior, it's actually a waste of time. So how satisfied are you in Zizi Africa with the efficiency of the tools that you're producing? You haven't told us about your own level of satisfaction. And I think that would be, you weren't given much time. I do appreciate that. But if you can't tell us today, we hope that you will point us to very easy to access research work and reports. I'd also be interested in the comparison of the efficiency of a, should we call it a learning program, learning values ethics, the learning program in the home and the learning program at school. Which institution is better at teaching what? Is it the family? Is it the school? I was hearing only today from an old pupil, how school X really taught her to do something that she hadn't learned before. And she said it was a time skill that she learned, and that she was forever grateful that she had this specific experience in school, which was a tough one, but it nevertheless stood her the test of time through her entire lifetime. And she's not young now. Again, it might have been a bit unfortunate that you chose respect as your example, because you have several others, which I don't know about. I wonder, for example, is one of your tools that you teach, or the skills, how to express disagreement or dissent in a positive manner, leading to positive outcomes. We're so inspired by Generation Gen Z, aren't we? All of us. There are things they've already learnt, and there are things that they're still to learn, just as we all are at whatever age we're still learning. That would seem to me to be an extremely vital skill to be learnt in Kenya at the moment among children and young people, because children are now allowed to express dissent and disapproval and disagreement, which was not the case even 40 years ago, certainly not 60 years ago. And another one being, maybe among your toolkit, how to stand on your own 2 feet, how to take more control of your daily life. And it comes in tiny, tiny little increments. And particularly for girls, or anybody from a vulnerable group, this is vital. So can we move away from giving examples like respect, etc., which is extremely classic, and which, some of our young people may say now, as they do say openly, it's not respect that we want to give you, we want to see action from you. They've said this again and again. They want from their parents and grandparents, they want a change. They want to be listened to, and they want action from the older generation, so that the younger generation can live in a better context. How are they going to learn to bring that change faster rather than slower? So you've inspired us, the two of you, and we just want to know more. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I hear quite some questions, and I can see more hands. I don't know the next speakers to just be straight to the point so that the panelists can be able to. I hope you are noting. Yes. So please let me take the 3, 1, 2, 3, and then we close. Okay.
So good afternoon. My name is Mukudi Samuel, also the rapporteur in today's conference. But what I want to observe is from the different experiences is Afrique, the ministry, and the other group is that there is so much happening, only that each of us is making a good initiative, well meant. I don't know who answers this, but how are we able to bring all this effort together so that what you are developing as a value in one line and you are experimenting, it doesn't again clash with something else that the other partner is doing? What is this we are going to do with all this? Because these values need to be standardized. There have been other studies, even Jaslika did a report a few years back on value-based education. I hear ethics, I hear value-based education. Which belongs to the other?
Okay, Dora, will you clarify that?
Thank you. Purity Ndega. Mine goes to the fellowship program. I see the focus is on children generation. I think one of the biggest challenge as far as ethics and values we have in this country is the contradiction between what the older generation does and what we are trying to teach our children as far as ethics and values are concerned. So my question is, how is your program trying to bridge that gap by getting the older generation maybe to unlearn and learn new ways of doing things so that we are not just talking or preaching water and drinking wine? Thank you.
Okay. So Maria Lucia, I hope you're still online. I would want you to respond to that question at the opportune time. Okay, go ahead.
We are talking about the same thing because we are talking about the same thing because if you focus, for example, on the 7 core competencies, you will most likely address the various variants of competencies.
A question that you feel comfortable to respond to.
Okay. All right. Let's see what we can respond to in the very short time that we've been given. The first question on a field or the place of sports or play, I actually mentioned that we are mainstreaming ethics education in the various dimensions. And one of the dimensions I mentioned, I talked about the co-curricular activities. I talked about clubs and societies, sports, drama, and music, so that we leverage on these already existing activities in our schools. We are not going to introduce something new. So when they are playing, for example, we want to look at how are they relating with one another. The teacher or the champion on ethics education should be able to identify that this learner is showing empathy, for example. This learner is showing love. When someone, and because this is an ongoing program, these activities are still ongoing. So we just mentioned a few. Then there's an element of ethics education and values. I think someone mentioned that. What are all these and how do they come together? Little is being seen because we are not putting our energies together. Actually, we are. As Zizi Afrique, together with KCD, Minister of Education, NEC, came together to develop the value-based education resource books. So all the ideas that we had, we put them in those materials. And we are working with many other organizations on the same. All right, so under Peace Education Program, we are implementing the sub-programs, and ethics education is one of them. All right, thank you. I don't know if I've answered your questions. Maybe I've attempted to respond to a few.
I think also some of the comments that were made are also food for thought for us to think as we move forward. So areas on like the relationship between school and home, I think that you can comment about, and the assessment issues that were raised.
Now, first, I think I want to thank one of the things that we do as an organization, Zizi, is we convene actors of the different initiatives so that we together can be able to achieve greater impact. And we believe in working within the system rather than working from outside. And that's why we debate with government on many of these. And actually, it's the government that leads on them. Even where we've given support, it's the government that leads. Because, again, that is the only way you can be able also to institutionalize some of these changes. Daktari asked a very interesting question. How efficient are we measuring? Now, it would not be fair for me to sit here and say we have figured it out and to say we now have got a very perfect tool. We now have about 80 experts across East Africa who can be able to develop these tools. And for a start, we've also developed the tools which can be built upon. Now, our tests are scenario-based. And that is why the whole idea around context is really very important. Because I'll give you an example. One of the things during the conceptualization time on problem solving. Was it on problem solving or? Yes, on problem solving. And one of the scenarios was around deforestation and tree cutting and that kind of thing. And it was so interesting that the children in the urban centers, urban setups feel when trees are being cut down, it is wrong. The right thing. But also one of the things that we recognized and why we believe very strongly that there needs to be a lot of effort and investment in measuring these is because we recognize that when it comes to core competencies, what we call core competencies or life skills and values, our data showed us that there are not so many disparities that are normally associated with the literacy and numeracy, where children in resourced places tend to have these skills. What we actually realized, I'll give you an example. One of the scenarios that we used to test for problem solving was something to do with a fire having broken up in the house. What do you do? And interesting enough, the children who showed a lot of proficiency or who were able to really come up with solutions were actually from the rural areas. The urban areas, most of the children would only tell us that you just call the fire people. That was their solution, and they wouldn't think about any other thing beyond that. And so we look at values and life skills as something that can be more of an equalizer in our education system, so that we are able to overcome the boundaries and the disparities of privilege and resources. Doctoring, which I really feel is really important, and we haven't done so much about it. The whole idea around listening to the children more, and maybe even the parents more. I think the assumption has always been that parents and maybe children do not know what they're supposed to be doing. But I think many of you most likely went to school and were able to complete the education because your parents supported you, and them who really needs the support. Are we overburdening, or are we preaching to already converted people? So maybe listening more to parents and children is something that I take for me as a learning, something that we need to do. And then lastly, how to take like personal control. I think we associate a lot of these with the life skill of self-awareness and any levels. There is awareness about self. There's awareness about the environment. There's awareness about even your rights. There's awareness of how you can be able to stand for those rights without necessarily harming them. I mean, there have been so many ideas thrown around, even the whole idea around community learning, community-based learning. And all these stem from the recognition that the environment we are living in and things almost everywhere. And if we continue to make our schools these places where you go to get all the knowledge, and then when you come back home, the acquisition, nurturing, and practicing of these values. But also, what kind of support do we need to give communities should be their role. Thank you.
Maria Lucia, still there? Do we still have Maria Lucia? Okay, I think she has.
Yes, I'm.
Oh, you're there. Yes. We had a question which I would like you to give your input on. How are we integrating intergenerational engagements? Oh, she can't hear me. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes. I wanted you to speak to how we are integrating intergenerational engagement in the delivery of ethics education. Could you speak briefly to that?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yes, Mary. I see I have 18 seconds and I will be taken out of the breakout session, but I can just say that, yes, and I think this is done through the work we do with the children to initiate collective actions. And one of the aspects that we ask children is to initiate their own programs where they reach out to the...
Yeah, I know she was talking about the actions, the collective action that children do where they have to engage adults and bring them on board. And also young people who are in school or out of school. So that would be the opportunity probably for the intergenerational engagement. So with that, I want to bring this parallel session to a close. And I think going forward, I think as we discuss, I know we are trying...